After just 16 episodes of Bonanza, Lorne Greene threatened to walk. The series was languishing at number 45 and looked doomed. His warning shot to the producers was blunt. Ben Cartwright felt too chilly, too phony. They retooled the patriarch, made him warmer, more human, and within 2 years Bonanza rocketed to number 2. But Greene's battles didn't end with that win. He clashed with Pernell Roberts so fiercely crew members literally had to separate them. He sparred with Michael Landon over the show's direction, and when Dan Blocker died in 1972, Greene said the series should have ended 6 seasons earlier. What was really happening off-camera? The truth was far messier than the reruns ever suggested. He began life as Lyon Heman Greene, born February 12, 1915 inches Ottawa, during one of the coldest Canadian winters on record, temperatures dropping to -40 degrees. His father, Daniel Greene, had escaped anti-Jewish violence in Russia in 1902 and scraped by on a tiny shoe repair business, sometimes only 8 a week during the war. The family squeezed into a 2-room flat at 127 Clarence Street, 6 people, including grandparents who spoke no English. Lyon slept on a mattress stitched from flour sacks and stuffed with newsprint. When the 1918 Spanish flu tore through Ottawa, killing about 200 residents, 3-year-old Leon came down with pneumonia so severe the family thought they'd lose him. His grandmother dosed him hourly with raw garlic and honey for weeks. Somehow, he pulled through. His mother, Dora, worked 14-hour days in a factory for 15 cents an hour, then brought home discarded newspapers from wealthier neighborhoods to teach her son to read, determined that education would be his escape route. On March 15, 1922, at exactly 2:47 inches the afternoon, disaster struck again. A spark, faulty wiring, igniting shoe polish fumes turned Daniel's cobbler shop into a furnace. They lost $400 in tools, about $6,000 today. Daniel's hands were badly burned. With no insurance and $200 still owed in rent, the family was evicted and moved into the basement of the Hebrew Benevolent Society on Chapel Street, with 12 other families. Lyon lay awake on an army cot, haunted by dreams of fire. The scar it left was practical as much as psychological. He grew terrified of debt and vowed never to lean on a single paycheck. In Hollywood, that hard lesson would steer how he saved, invested, and negotiated. By 1928, one 3-year-old Lyon was at Lisgar Collegiate. Cast as Tree Number 3 in The Enchanted Forest, he went off-script and delivered a 5-minute roast of Ottawa's City Council, jabbing at a $10,000 scandal linked to Mayor Frank Plant. Laughter erupted. The mayor's wife stormed out, and Lyon was suspended for a week. His drama teacher quietly told him he had the goods, and that politics could get a performer burned as fast as any electrical spark. In 1931, at 16, with unemployment at 27%, Leon scavenged dumps for valves and wire. Determined to build a radio using $2.75 of newspaper money and a popular mechanic's schematic, he assembled a 5-tube superheterodyne in the coal cellar by candlelight because his father wouldn't waste electricity. When his mother heard the set picking up Chicago and Pittsburgh, she smashed it with a rolling pin. Still bitter over a relative's show business failure, Lyon rebuilt it in a neighbor's garage and began reading headline rundowns to himself nightly from midnight to 2 a.m. Radio became both refuge and rehearsal. He graduated in June 1933. Canada's jobless rate near 30%. Turning down a 1.5-a-week bank job, he enrolled in acting at Ottawa Little Theatre. Tuition, $8 a month. Savings, $23. His father exploded. Neighbors called the police. Lyon reinvented himself as Lorne. Inspired by Scotland's River Lorne, and pawned his father's gold pocket watch to cover that first term, sparking a 3-year family rift. But the die was cast. By 1939, Lorne Greene joined CBC Radio in Toronto, fresh from New York's neighborhood playhouse. He rose fast, Canada's primary national newsreader, and even devised a reverse-count stopwatch to time live segments. When World War II escalated and casualty lists lengthened, his resonant baritone calm, grave delivered heartache into Canadian kitchens. The nickname changed from the Voice of Canada to the Voice of Doom. The burden grew heavy. He left staff duty, served with the Royal Canadian Air Force in broadcasting capacities, and narrated wartime documentaries like Fighting Norway and Churchill's Island, the latter winning an Academy Award. After the war, the CBC wanted a cut of his outside earnings. He refused, went freelance, and in 1945 opened Toronto's Academy of Radio Arts, training hundreds including Leslie Nielsen and James Doohan until 1952. He also co-founded the Jupiter Theatre in 1951, striving to build a distinctly Canadian stage tradition. The company folded in 1954, but Greene's mission to give Canada its own cultural voice had momentum. Hollywood came next, in 1952. When he was 37, leaving a $200 a week CBC paycheck, he started from zero with a $3,000 government drama grant. Casting directors heard the depth in his voice and saw villains and stern fathers. Determined not to be boxed in, he still paid $500 for voice work to broaden his range. Orson Welles noticed him after a televised monologue Greene took and walked away from. Jobs on principle, quitting the heart of time, when he learned animal deformity footage from nuclear tests had been censored, foregoing $2,500 and angering backers, but earning respect from anti-nuclear advocates. A $1,954 Warner Brothers, a deal brought $15,000 a year. In tight spot, he broke his nose doing his own stunts and finished the day without painkillers, earning on-set respect, as the film took in $1.2 million. He passed on a $25,000 soap contract in 1956 to play a scientist on a short-lived sci-fi radio drama, The Garrick Powers Story, for $300 an episode, because the anti-radiation message mattered to him. In 1957, he launched Lorne Greene Enterprises to make a War of 1,812 documentary, sinking $15,000 of savings into a project that needed $50,000. NBC showed interest, then demanded 5 years' control over his voice work. Greene refused. The deal collapsed. He'd already spent $35,000 on research and gear, and had to sell his Burbank house for $16,000. He'd paid $18,000 3 years earlier. That sting reshaped how he negotiated for the rest of his career. Profit shares, creative input, and contract protections would become non-negotiable. Through the early 1,940 seconds before the acting breaks, his voice had already become ritual for more than 2 million listeners. So much so that families would switch off the set when the Voice of Doom came on, bracing for bad news. The nightmares lasted for years. He tried to tilt the balance like that reverse stopwatch he invented in 1945, which stations adopted widely and poured the proceeds into training others. Between 1,945 and 1,952, 381 students came through his doors. Roughly 90% found work. Hollywood, though, stayed tough. From 1,952 to 1,959, he booked 12 TV appearances and 4 films, enough to survive, not to thrive sometimes, taking anonymous voice gigs just to keep the fridge cold. By 1957, he was close to quitting. His wife urged one more year, That year changed everything. A live turn on Studio One in 1958 caught the eye of the producers of a new Western. Injury nearly derailed him on the Buccaneer, with Yul Brynner and Charlton Heston. A training accident sliced his leg and nicked a small artery, requiring 23 stitches. Greene wrapped it tight, hid the limp, and kept working. Twice the wound reopened, and he slipped off for treatment. The infection was dangerous. Only his doctor and wife knew how close he'd come. Then came the offer in 1959. A color Western rare, then called Bonanza. At 44, he could play the father or the eldest son. He rang former student Leslie Nielsen. Play the father. He's the anchor. Greene signed a 7-year deal at $20,500 per episode. Bonanza premiered September 12, 1959. The ratings didn't boom at first, but Greene started shaping from within. After 16 episodes, he laid down an ultimatum. Ben Cartwright, as written, was hollow. He wanted a real father, compassion first, gun last. At that point, the show hovered at number 45 and was flirting with cancellation. The writers listened. By episode 13, Ben was warmer, wiser. That shift didn't just rescue the series, it became its moral engine. By 1961, Bonanza sat at number 2. Off camera, tempers ran hot. Greene and Pernell Roberts clashed. Roberts saw Greene as overbearing. Greene saw leadership as part of the job. Fights went loud. Producers stepped in. By 1964, Greene earned $2,500 per episode plus consultant bonuses. Roberts had the same base without the extras. The gap widened the rift. Roberts departed in 1965 after 202 episodes. Michael Landon quipped, "We took one leaf out of the dining table and split the take 3 ways instead of 4. Greene's insistence on humanity had roots in wartime gravity. Early on again, around that episode, 13, he asked, "Why are we always pointing a gun?" He argued, the Cartwrights should offer kindness before violence. The show's tone shifted. Stories about racism, justice, and dignity threaded between the shootouts. By 1961, he was pulling $10,000 an episode and quietly giving 20%, about $2,000 per, to Canadian war orphans, a private practice he kept for years, later surfacing during 1,970 seconds tax audits. By the time Bonanza closed in 1973, he had given more than $400,000, nearly $2.8 million today. He directed his first hour in Season 4, War Wagon, airing 1,963. When Bonanza ranked number 4 and rewrote a scene to avoid animal harm, some stunt crew walked. Greene held the line. In 1964, a location shoot affair hit the plan. Tabloids. He had been married to Rita Hand since 1938, with twins born in 1944. The headline stung, especially as his spoken-word single, Ringo, hit number 1 on December 5th, 1964, and ruled the easy listening chart for 6 weeks. Many buyers assumed it was about Ringo's star. It wasn't. Royalties around $500,000 followed. Greene steered that money to anti-nuclear causes. He'd narrated for Canada's National Film Board during the war and cared deeply about proliferation. He even sent letters to U.S. senators urging policy changes, knowing it could alienate some of Bonanza's conservative base. He did it anyway. By 1966, new friction surfaced, this time with Michael Landon, who favored more romance-forward plots to woo younger viewers. Greene called it a trashy distraction. As Landon began directing, Bonanza developed dueling visions. Even so, Greene used his clout in Season 7 to push episodes confronting racism, insisting native roles be played by native actors. Hate mail followed, recognition did too, including praise from civil rights groups for breaking stereotypes while the show still sat in the top 5. When Bonanza ended in 1973, Greene had become a television institution. Then, at 63 inches 1,978, he jumped genres. Commander Adama in Battlestar Galactica. The original ran 1,978. 1,979 for 21 episodes. He returned for Galactica. 1,980 with 10 more. The same voice that once read wartime bulletins now steadied a fleeing civilization. Years earlier, he had tested quieter, intimate drama. The Harness. 1,971. A 2-hour TV film from John Steinbeck, directed by Boris Sagal, with Julie Sommars and Murray Hamilton. A character piece that proved he could play vulnerability, not just steel. Personally, he'd married Rita Hands in 1,938. Their twins arrived in 1,944. They divorced in 1960. He wed Nancy Deal in 1961 and remained with her for the rest of his life. Those off-screen highs and lows deepened the gravitas he brought to fathers, leaders, and men under pressure. He never gave up the microphone. In the 1,940 seconds, he'd narrated Churchill's Island, War Clouds in the Pacific, Inside Fighting China. In the 1,970 seconds, he returned to nature hosting Last of the Wild. 1,974. 1,975. Then came his most enduring late-career project, Lorne Greene's New Wilderness, launching in 1982 on CTV and running 104 episodes through 1,987. It let him speak for what he loved: wildlife, conservation, the planet itself. Still, Bonanza's final years haunted him. Season 12, September 13th, 1,970, to April 11th, 1,971, felt adrift. Roberts was gone since 1965. Writing seemed thinner, and NBC meddled more. The 28-episode slate slid to number 9. It felt like walking into a house where someone had died, he said. In the last season, 1,972-1,973, Greene pushed to let Ben experience a divorce arc mirroring his own, and NBC said, no, family show, no divorce, no remarriage. He believed that choice would have humanized Ben. The network wouldn't risk it. In 1974, he told the Toronto Star Bonanza should have wrapped at season 6. After Dan Blocker's death in 1972, the hole was too big. NBC tried swapping in new characters like Jamie Hunter. It wasn't the same. Worst of all, cancellation came without a proper goodbye. They were told on a Monday it would be over by Wednesday. After 431 episodes, the final broadcast on January 16th, 1,973, wasn't even the last filmed. Greene pictured little Joe married, riding into a sunset with the family. Instead, the series simply stopped. Talk of a Bonanza movie in the 1,970 seconds revived friction with Michael Landon. Greene believed any revival had to honor Dan Blocker. Some later TV movies, he felt, drifted from what Bonanza stood for. Those disagreements lingered until Landon's passing in 1991. Lorne Greene died September 11, 1987, age 72, at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica. The cause wasn't just pneumonia. He'd undergone surgery for a perforated bleeding ulcer on August 5th and developed adult respiratory distress syndrome. He was scheduled to start Bonanza, The Next Generation, on October 24th. He never made that call. About 500 people attended his funeral at Hillside Memorial Park in Culver City. The chapel seated 300, and another 200 listened outside during a 75-minute service. Michael Landon and Pernell Roberts were there, a quiet, bittersweet reunion. His legacy didn't end with the last episode or the last eulogy. He chaired the National Wildlife Federation, wrote Lorne Greene's Book of Remarkable Animals, and used that incomparable voice to turn living rooms into classrooms about the natural world. The baritone that once announced war later invited families to marvel at wild geese and great cats. In the 1,940 seconds, it was the voice of doom. After the war and after the West, it became the voice of reassurance, of Canada's hope, and, eventually, of America's favorite TV dad. He dreamed of one final ride as Ben Cartwright. Fate said no, but his influence endures echoes in every stoic, principled patriarch, from classic westerns to modern dramas. Shows like Yellowstone, with Kevin Costner's John Dutton, trace their lineage to the man who guarded land, family, and values at any cost. That was Lorne Greene's gift to television. His legacy isn't just in the reruns, it's in every strong, thoughtful father figure who came after him.